Bible prophecy since I was 12 years old. It was all I would listen to when I was even younger than that. Yeah, Daniel the Lion's Dead one's fine, and Moses was fine, but let's get on to Bible prophecy, you know. It's 6, 7, 8 years old. I wanted to hear about the day of the Lord. And so now I've kind of got it coming out of my ears. So I talk about it as last days events. It's what I've been called to do, you know, what I was born, put on this earth to do. And I've awakened to that calling, and so that's pretty much what I spend my time on. Why is the church so silent about the coming events? You know, because they're drowning in false doctrines, and they don't know what their own Bibles behold. They don't read their Bibles, and when they do, they read it with an already predetermined consciousness of what's going to happen or what it says based on what they've been told to believe by pastors who have no truth or love for the truth. You know, they're sheep led to the slaughter by those they trust. You know, that's always been the history of Israel, in the past, in the future. Yet a remnant has always remained aloof of the ways of the majority and has sought God for His truth alone. Through every century, a remnant has remained that will be led by no other than Yahweh Himself, and that is true of the remnant today. They are not led by another, just Yahweh Himself, and neither will they be blindsided by the events that are coming. You know, the Lord said in Matthew 24:37, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall the days of the coming of the Son of Man be." You know, we are warned that the last days would be as the days of Noah. What was going on during Noah's lifetime will be going on in ours, and we will be experiencing the same things he did. And I think one of the stumbling blocks when you get to this point is that most people need to change their perceptions of what the days like of Noah were. I know, I'll tell you the perceptions I've always had, and being that mankind, civilizations of mankind probably being nothing more than a glorified campsite. You know, people living in tents, huddled around bonfires at night. And this is kind of the conditioning Hollywood gives you on the past, because they blindside you to the truth on it. The same way the churches do. And so in this aspect, you have both Hollywood and the churches working together because all of the serpent seeds dominate these positions anyway, on both aspects of the coin, and they keep us ignorant to what the days of Noah were really like. And I'm not just talking about the fact that angels were falling and procreating with human women and producing giants. I'm talking about the civilization itself. They had high-tech technology. You know, they had higher tech, probably rivaling what we have today. And we can't even figure out some of the stuff they had. You know, they didn't have fuel and gasoline for vehicles, but obviously they had vehicles because they found different types of batteries and artifacts that they've dug up out of the ground in relation to older times. You know, the angels who fell, Enoch will give you a description within the first 15 chapters of Enoch of some of the things that each of these head chief angels taught the people at that time. And what they came from heaven, and they gave these people secrets that they had. And that's why their judgments were immediate, these immediate angels. That's why they were so harsh, because they had given away information, secrets straight from heaven that the Lord didn't want His original creation to have. He didn't want mankind to go down these paths. But that's the way the angels took us, Satan trying to destroy the creation that God created. And so you really have to change your perception, start to change what it was really like back then, so you can get a grasp of it. You know, if 200 million of Satan's dead, of his demons, are going to be allowed to come onto earth and inhabit, rule, you know, fulfill the Lord's will in these last days, that's 200 million giants that were on the earth at one time. You know, because these demons are the spirits of the dead Nephilim. And so instead of being maybe, you know, thousands or whatever, we probably have these, you know, we don't think of civilization as being that crowded at that time. But obviously it was. Obviously, if they could field a 200 million man army, then there were at least 200 million giants on the land at that time. I'm not saying all at one time, but over the time. I mean, there were several thousand years between Adam and Noah. I mean, I don't think anybody has a real grip at all on the time between Adam and Noah. Much more advanced civilization than we give them credit for, and it's all been buried. It's all been buried by our churches. In Genesis 6, 1-5 and 11-13, I want to give you a rundown on this. Now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with its violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence to them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. The churches preach that the sons of God were the righteous sons of Seth's line mixing with Cain's, but that's not true. It tells you right in the passage itself who these sons of God were. They were the mighty men of old, men of renown, and this is a reference to the fallen angels. The most overlooked event that was happening during the days of Noah was the hybridization of the human race, and it's the most overlooked one now as well by the churches. The shepherds aren't teaching the truth in the churches today. Why? Because many of the tares own and run the seminaries they are graduating from, and they aren't seeking the Lord himself for the truth of the scriptures. A lot of these men graduating from these seminaries of the dead, and these seminaries of the dead. Look at Norman Vincent Peale. He was the head of parts of the New Age movement running the Dallas Seminary. I mean, come on, folks. You're not getting the truth out of these seminaries. And so these pastors are graduating, and they're continuing on with what they've been told to believe in these seminaries and what they've been taught, and they don't search the scriptures for themselves. They don't abandon man's wisdom and knowledge and seek the Lord and sit at his feet for him to teach them. And so, they're working under the tares the entire time. Tares own, they run most of the denominations, the same way they do politics. And so today's events with UFOs and alien abductions are a mere reflection of what was happening back in Noah's day as well. In Noah's day, the angels were described as coming down to earth and taking human wives for themselves and producing giants as their offspring. And so this happened before the flood and after the flood. You can see that in Genesis 6:4. When Jacob reclaimed the land of Palestine of Israel after their exodus of Egypt, he and his soldiers wiped out 20 cities of giants. He described men as being mere grasshoppers compared to the size of these giants. So obviously angels began falling once again after the flood instead of procreating with human women. Angels have free will. They had it before the flood. They have it after the flood. They even have it today. And Joshua wiped out these cities of the giants, and he was commanded by the Lord to wipe out all men, women, and children, even their offspring. Joshua killed. And after this, the giants are rarely mentioned. And so, how many times have you heard from agnostics or atheists about this cruel and wicked God who could command Joshua and the Israelites to kill children, to kill women? And these weren't humans they were killing. These were hybrids. These were giants. These were offspring of the aliens, of the fallen angels. They were not pure humans. They were half alien, half humans. And that's why God commanded them to destroy every one of them. But where are the giants today? If the flood itself doesn't stop angels from falling and procreating with human women and producing giant offspring, what or who did? Because that's an answer I don't have at the moment. But it's something I've thought about. Technically, we still have giants today, albeit not like before. In fact, anyone over 6'4" could be considered a giant. We call them giants. Perhaps carrying an ancient giantism deep